When you're ready.
All right, can you guys hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right. Hello, my name is Cody Bowerman, and I'm studying chemical engineering. I'm very excited to share with you today something very special that we have been working on. But first, I would like to introduce my incredible team who have poured hours of hard work into this amazing project. Mackenzie Pugh and Shelley Edwards are both very brilliant students studying biomolecular chemical engineering, and Jordan Barnett is a very passionate nursing student. We crossed over disciplinaries to create a very dynamic team ready to solve challenging problems in the healthcare profession. As we all know, COVID-19 has been spreading across the world at an alarming rate and has infected millions of people and has caused thousands of deaths. Unfortunately, we have all been affected by this pandemic and probably know at least one person who has it. There is another silent killer that continues to affect 800,000 Americans each year that we are aware of. Once a heart attack begins, a muscle-based protein in the heart called troponin is released into the bloodstream. Increasing levels of troponin indicate to doctors that a patient is experiencing a heart attack. You have a golden hour before you can restore blood flow to the heart before death or permanent damage occurs. While living in rural areas greatly reduces your chance of getting the coronavirus, it does not increase your chance of surviving a long drive to a hospital during a heart attack. This pivotal gap in knowledge between the initial heart attack symptoms and a heart attack diagnostic at the hospital is where our product will bridge the gap. Our device will be used to obtain troponin values from a finger stick blood sample along the way to the hospital, which will provide the doctors with valuable life-saving data to quickly identify a heart attack. We have been working hard through experimentation and by talking with healthcare providers and medical professionals to make this vision a reality. We are excited to announce that we have successfully secured a provisional patent for our device. This has helped shape our business model for the coming years as we continue to develop this product in preparation to partner with a medical device manufacturer to sell our patent, which would have the greatest potential to impact heart attack patients and save thousands of lives. Join us on this revolution in reducing the wait for life-saving heart attack treatment. Thank you.
Bugsy, we'll begin with you for questions.
Thank you for your presentation. I have a quick question. Just normal physiology. Generally, it takes about 4 to 6 hours for troponin to go up once you start having the myocardial infarction. The big fear would be somebody has chest pain, classic symptoms, does this, and the test would be negative. That's going to be a piece that you're going to have to figure out. How do you position this in the market so that a patient, let's say in Birdstown, has chest pain, does the test, and it's negative, but yet they continue to have pain? Those are some big legal issues, et cetera. So help me understand, walk me through that piece. How do you translate that into real life practice?
Sure, I understand what you're saying there. We looked at having the device be something that could be out of the patient's home or it be on an ambulance, and we felt that'd be best if it could be on the ambulance. That way, you wouldn't have to. There'd be less regulations that you'd have to overcome, a lot of hurdles. It would already be in the healthcare provider's hands whenever they get to that patient. Does that answer your question?
Well, not exactly, but the physiology, you have to have time to get the positive.
Sure.
So where I see some value, and when you get into regulations, those are going to be the same no matter where it's used. If you had a negative in Birdstown, and by the time you hit Cookeville Regional, and now you got a positive, that would help me know that, yeah, I could date it. I could say, okay, within the last 2 hours, you've had an MI. So now that clock's running in my head and I know what I need to be doing. So I think there's more value in establishing a baseline. There may be some value in rural settings for like rural practice settings, urgent care settings. But just that baseline, I think, would be the value. And I think that's where the market where you ought to be looking. But very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. One of the things I noted in your write-up was the fact that you are still in the process of testing the
Correct.
device. I know you're doing all the pre-work with the patent pending and all that sort of stuff. But what issues are you finding during your testing, and do you think that those you will be able to overcome those? Do those look like high hurdles, or are those things that you feel you can work through?
We have, so currently, before the coronavirus happened, we were using test strips just to provide a proof of concept that we could see troponin values, different concentrations. And the biggest hurdle that we were coming up against was getting low enough concentrations of troponin. So whenever a patient first begins having a heart attack, it's not going to be a whole release of troponin. It's going to be gradually. So at the very beginning, your baseline, it might be very minimum. It might be very small. So we were having a harder time picking up those smaller concentrations of troponin.
I dropped out for a second there, so I missed part of this. So apologies if this was already asked, but I'm curious, why do you guys think this doesn't exist already? To me, this is like a very straightforward problem. I think what you guys have identified here is really clear. I really like the concept, but so why isn't it out on the market yet?
Jordan, would you like to address that?
Yeah. So our biggest competitor we found is the iStat machine, which used to be on the back of ambulances, but has currently been taken off because you have to have a pathologist review a troponin level since it's considered such a critical lab level. So CLIAWAVE kind of took that off and said this iStat tests for way too many lab values. So ours is simple, just one lab value, positive or negative, doesn't give you an exact range, so we can get around that and therefore be one of the first troponin tests on an ambulance and in clinics.
Cool, thanks.
All right, so just to understand, this is just like a simple blood test, right?
Correct. Are you familiar with the glucometer?
Yeah.
Okay, it's going to be similar to that.
Is this something that you could see someone just having in their home, a consumer? Like, I might like to have one of these around my house.
That's what we looked at initially. And for right now, we're wanting just to target ambulances and urgent care clinics, and then possibly in the future to extend it to people at home.
Not that you want to get into an Elizabeth Holmes situation there with your medical testing. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
This may be kind of a silly question, and I don't have the healthcare experience to support this, but what does this solve? And what I mean by that is, if this is on an ambulance, what would this do that they wouldn't already be checking for or be trying to treat already? Because this doesn't change the trip to the hospital. This doesn't change the distance there or how fast they get there. So what do they have to have additional equipment on there to treat based off of these results, et cetera?
Right. So basically, what our product is serving to bridge the gap here is those troponin values is what they base, or it's how they determine if you're having a heart attack. That's one of the major things. And so on the ambulance ride, they can only treat you for chest pain symptoms. They can't identify that you're having a heart attack. And even with our device, they won't be able to fully identify that you're having a heart attack, but it will provide the doctor at the hospital with information that that will be able to signify to him that the patient could be having a heart attack. Because whenever you get to the hospital after that long ride, then the hospital takes a blood sample and they run that same test. And so you're going to have to wait an additional 15 to 30 minutes for them to do several samples and to be able to get a diagnostic.
I will add to that, after a heart attack, those troponin levels will.
Megan, we'll start with you for questions. Apologies. That has concluded the Q&A session. Thank you, Serious as a Heart Attack. Our final